Important update, what's going on in the Gaza Strip. Have a look at this video.
כחודש מתחילת מבצע עוז וחרב, כוחותינו עדיין מרחיבים את ציר מורג שמפריד בין רפיח לח'אן יונס ומחתרים באופן מלא את העיר הדרומית ברצועה.
התכלית של המשימה הזאת היא בעצם לקטר את כל רפיח ולהשמיד את כל המחבלים שנמצאים פה ובעצם לכבוש את כל השטח של חטיבת רפיח.
הבוקר קיבלנו הצצה לפעילות של צה"ל במרחב. נסענו במשך מספר דקות על ציר מורג, דרך נוחה יחסית לרכבי שטח. הרחבת הציר מאפשרת לשמור על בטיחות הכוחות.
Before we go on, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. So what did we just see there? On your screen right now, you see a map of the Gaza Strip. So the border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip is called the Philadelphia Corridor. Along that border, there's been many tunnels that have been found where all of the supplies and the weapons for Hamas got into Gaza by being smuggled through the tunnels from Egypt. Some of those tunnels were large enough to drive a Mack truck through them, and Israel knows that it hasn't even discovered all of the tunnels under the Philadelphia Corridor. So what Israel has done over the last few weeks, and they've just opened it up to the media to see, is they've built a parallel corridor that runs from the Mediterranean to mainland Israeli territory called the Morag Corridor. It's 12 kilometers long and it's currently 2 kilometers wide. And that cuts off the southwestern part of the Gaza Strip from the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Now, what does this do? Why is Israel doing this? So in the video, you saw Brigadier General Barak Hiram, the commander of the Gaza division of the IDF, explaining that the main purpose of this Morag corridor is to isolate Rafah. Rafah sits right on the Egyptian border, and a lot of the tunnels, the main tunnels from Egypt into the Gaza Strip, bringing in supplies to Hamas, led right into Rafah, and Rafah became a major stronghold of Hamas. You might remember back in earlier stages of the war when the Biden administration was freaking out, trying to tell Israel that they can't invade Rafah. And the suspicion that we had at the time, the Biden administration was worried that the whole world would now discover that Egypt was complicit in smuggling all the weapons and all the supplies into Hamas. But be that as it may, according to General Barak Hiram, the purpose of the Morag corridor is to isolate Rafah so that Israel can now wipe out the final Hamas fighters that are in Rafah. What you saw in the video is that the Morag corridor was obviously, or is obviously, being built for a much greater purpose than just finishing off Hamas in Rafah. Obviously, you see the road that they're building and the fences that are going up. This is not meant to be a temporary security barrier. This is meant to be permanent. And what that means is that Israel has decided that the best way to neutralize the threat of the smuggling in of weapons and of supplies from Egypt into Gaza is to simply move the goalposts, literally. So they're moving the border northeast, and in between the Morag corridor and the Philadelphia corridor, otherwise known as the Egyptian border, is going to become a security zone controlled by Israel. That's what this Morag corridor is really all about. Now, at the same time as all this is going on, there's another huge story about Gaza that is developing as we speak. Have a look at this clip.
הצבאי אומר לנו את הדבר הבא היום. הסיוע ההומניטרי יחולק על ידי מי שהדרג המדיני יחליט, צה"ל או גורם בינלאומי. יש כבר תוכנית להוציא פיילוט בדרום הרצועה, יותר קרוב לאזור המחסות, צריך לומר, מגי, והמטרה של הפיילוט הזה זה לראות אם בכלל לצה"ל יש את היכולת לבצע את המשימה.
This is huge. If you've been paying attention to this war from the beginning, you know that one of the big issues in the war has always been the humanitarian aid. Originally, right after October 7th, Israel did not want to allow in any humanitarian aid. The Biden administration and the international community forced Israel's hand to allow truckloads and truckloads and many, many tons every day of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. And as I pointed out many times, the humanitarian aid is not just food and medicines. It's also a large component of it is fuel. And all of this aid was being delivered right into the hands of Hamas because Hamas remained the civil authority. They were, the mafia bosses, as it were, of the Gaza Strip. And they were the ones throughout this war who've been receiving the humanitarian aid. And they've used that to continue to fuel their war machine and their authorities. When we sit back and wonder, how can it be that this war has gone on since October 7th and Israel has not been able to destroy Hamas? The answer to why Israel has not been able to destroy Hamas all this time is because of the humanitarian aid. This aid has been used by Hamas to make money. They sell it to the people, or they only distribute it to families that participate in Hamas, that give their sons to fight in Hamas. They use the fuel to fuel their war machine. Basically, the humanitarian aid has been the oxygen that has kept Hamas alive, both in terms of supplies and in terms of power and authority over the people. And what you see in this clip is that Noam Amir, he is the chief military correspondent for Channel 14 cable news in Israel. He's reporting that the IDF and the Israeli government have decided that they are going to take the humanitarian aid into their own hands. A number of weeks back, the Israelis cut off all deliveries of humanitarian aid when they started this new offensive against Hamas after the end of the ceasefire hostage deal. And Hamas has been saying that they'll only go to another deal if the humanitarian aid resumes. Israel refuses to resume deliveries of humanitarian aid to Hamas. But the stores of food and medicines in the Gaza Strip are running out. Estimates are that there's only about a month's worth left of food and supplies. And the Israelis are looking at that and saying, okay, we don't want the people of Gaza to starve. We certainly don't want the world screaming about the people of Gaza starving. So what Israel is about to do is to start a new program. As Noam Amir reported in that video, Israel is going to start distributing the humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza themselves. And in order to get humanitarian aid, a Gazan will have to go to an area under the full control of the IDF. So areas of the Gaza Strip that have been taken by the IDF, because the IDF since the end of the last ceasefire has been taking territory and holding it, those areas under full Israeli control will be the only places to go to get food, to get medicines, to get fuel, to get everything else. Think about what that means. Let's play it out. It means that the people in the Gaza Strip who are currently living under the thumb of Hamas, in order to get food and supplies, are going to have to migrate, to evacuate into areas under full Israeli control that will take them out from under the thumb of Hamas. That will mean that Hamas will no longer have governing authority over them. They will be in an area fully controlled by the Israelis. And that means that simultaneously, Hamas's oxygen in terms of money and supplies and power will all be taken away. So the destruction of Hamas is imminent, because as soon as Hamas doesn't have the humanitarian aid, it means they have no way of controlling the population. It means they don't have governing authority anymore. Their population is going to start evacuating en masse into areas fully controlled by the Israelis. So the end of Hamas, both militarily and as a governing body, which is the major goal of this war besides getting back the hostages, is in sight. Hamas is about to be destroyed. So if you put these two stories together, this new idea for distributing humanitarian aid by the Israelis, together with the Morag corridor, cutting off the possibility of smuggling in new weapons and supplies to Hamas from Egypt, and we see what's coming into focus is that Israel's plan to destroy Hamas is happening, and it's happening fast. We're going to continue to cover this in the coming weeks as the whole plan takes shape.